Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for Windows Weekly is provided by Cachefly at CACHEFLY.com. This is Windows Weekly with Paul Thurrott, episode 59 for May 16th, 2008. That Thing Out There. Windows Weekly is brought to you by Audible.com. For your free audiobook, visit audible.com/Windows. And by GoToMeeting, the easy and affordable way to conduct an online meeting. Setup takes 2 minutes, meet as often as you want for one low rate. Try GoToMeeting free. Visit gotomeeting.com/Windows Weekly. And by listeners like you. Thanks for your donations. It's time for Windows Weekly with Paul Thurrott. We talk about Windows every week. By hook or by crook.
That's the name.
That's the name, hence the name. Even if all my Macs died and I can't use Skype and we have to do it by phone, we will do a show.
There you go.
So that's why Paul's on the phone today. I'm having trouble. We had a heat wave here in Petaluma, and I think my computers decided they didn't want to work today.
I'm sorry.
They're just gone home. Isn't that terrible?
Yeah, it might be healthy.
Be healthy for me if I didn't have a whole day of work, broadcasting to do.
Yeah, that's true.
That'd be healthy otherwise. So how are you today?
I'm good. Tired, the usual.
Yeah. Why are you
kind
tired?
Of winding down. Well, I'm winding down on the book revision. Hopefully, next 7 days I can get this in the can. It's only a month overdue, and
this is
typical.
Windows Vista Secrets SP1.
Yeah.
Well, SP1 is just now arriving, so that's okay.
Yeah.
I've started to hear some problems with SP3. Have you heard any?
I have heard of sporadic reports of constant rebooting.
Yeah. Now, that's not unusual. In fact, we had that problem with Service Pack 2. And then some people have said that there's a known issue with Windows Media Center 2005.
Oh, that I'm not sure of.
Breaking that. It's funny.
I pretty much, with the slipstreaming stuff especially, one of the things I haven't looked at is Media Center Edition or Tablet PC Edition. And there's some technical reasons for that, but mostly what it has to do with is just that the installers are on 2 disks, and there are hacks out there where you can make a single DVD version of the installer and all that stuff. But I don't know. Time is too short, I guess.
Life is too short to work on XP.
That's right.
But, I found it interesting, in some ways telling, that we haven't heard of really any significant issues with Vista Service Pack 1, and yet here we are again with Service Pack issues on XP.
Yeah, but I would just say off the top of my head, you need to remember that there are a huge number of people running XP that will be upgrading to SP3, whereas the install base of Vista is much smaller, and this is just something that's happened throughout the years. Anytime Microsoft releases any product, they beta test it with X number of thousands or millions of people. It doesn't really matter.
Right.
Once you get that sucker out in the real world,
you
never know.
You never know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Windows 7, once again, Bill Gates, he can't keep his mouth shut. He's so excited about Windows 7. He just
yeah, he really is.
He's saying, I'm out of here in July. I'm just going to have some fun.
But, he never actually says anything about it. That's kind of what cracks me up.
He never even says the S word. He never even really says 7, does he? He just says the
he
next
does.
version.
He did this time. He actually mentioned Windows 7. But some of the confusion here is, there was a CNET story. I want to say it was in very early April, where he had supposedly promised that Windows 7 would come in the next year. And there's no actual transcript of his speech, so all I have to rely on is the quote.
And we talked about that at the time.
Yeah, and I don't believe that he actually was talking about Windows 7.
He said the next version of Windows. So
he actually just said, in sometime in the next year, we will have a new version. And I am super enthused about it. Neat.
He's always super enthused and neat.
Yeah. So he actually did, in a speech in Japan this past week, mentioned Windows 7 explicitly, and then proceeded to say absolutely nothing about it, in my opinion. He said that he described some features that were clearly live mesh, not Windows 7.
Right.
He said that it would it would be lower power, take less memory, and be more efficient. Which is sort of vague. And
well, except that's exactly against the trend that we've seen each new.
Yeah, and I took that to be a reaction to some of the criticisms we've seen about Windows Vista.
Right.
I also would just point out that Microsoft really has to do very little to enable that, because what's going to happen is hardware just catches up. And if you accept the notion that Windows 7 is simply Windows Vista 2.0, which is what I believe,
right?
Yeah, okay, great. So that's no big deal. He mentioned that it would have more connections to the mobile phone without explicitly saying what that meant.
Again, that could be mesh.
It could be anything. Yeah, it could be mesh. It could be a combination of mesh and what Microsoft ships today in Windows Mobile Device Center, which I was interested to see, by the way. If you go to the Windows Vista website on Microsoft.com, they actually mention that as a feature of Windows Vista, which it is not. It's actually a separate download, and it's a way that you can interact with a Windows mobile phone or PDA or whatever with Windows Vista. It's sort of the replacement for ActiveSync. And, so they integrate that in Windows 7, and that pretty much, it's that bullet point.
Right.
He said that it would be a great platform for the best gaming that can be done. Presumably not ever. But
that's an odd construct. The best gaming that can be done.
Oh, by the way, the sentence structure on some of these things are actually hilarious. He said that we're going to connect up to the thing being done out on the internet.
What would that be? The thing being done.
The thing being done.
What is he talking about?
It's almost like he caught himself in the middle. He was going to say something a little too much.
He's always had that kind of syntactic.
Well, he's not a great speaker,
right.
and I've been fascinated over the years at how many people I've run into who are so excited to see him speak. Oh. And I kept telling, I've said to people numerous times over the years, well, prepare for disappointment. This guy, he'll put you to sleep. I mean, there's not much going on there. So yeah, that's a kind of a tortured sentence structure there. But
it's very good at that.
Yeah. So
he thinks like a programmer.
Yeah. Well, right. Sure. So, and he also said that they would make it easier for people to upgrade to Windows 7. And I assume he was sort of referring to earlier versions of Windows,
right.
And that somehow, that it was hard to upgrade to Windows Vista, which, to be fair, the Windows Vista upgrade story, not that I recommend people upgrade in place from one version of Windows to another, but if you were to do that, Windows Vista is actually the best they've done so far in that kind of work. So I look at that as an evolution of work that they started with XP, improved in Windows Vista, and will no doubt evolve again for Windows 7.
Right.
Anyway, that was it, and
there you have it.
Got really excited about it. But
so once again, less power, less memory, and more efficient.
And
Windows 7.
To that thing being done on the internet.
I love that. Connecting to that thing being done on the internet.
Leo, we got to connect to that thing that's being done.
I would love to.
I feel like we're not taking advantage of
it. Maybe he's talking about us. Maybe he's talking about podcasting.
Yeah, really.
The thing being done. Let's talk about Xbox. I'm more interested in Gears of War 2. I remember you were a big Gears of War fan.
Yeah, well, in two ways. So I would say on the single player, at the time, best game ever on the 360.
Yep.
I think it's a toss-up. There are a couple of other games that are probably just about as good, but absolutely 5-star rated.
Yep.
Perfect.
Yep.
Multiplayer, horrible. I mean, absolutely horrible. The complete opposite. And they promised to fix that in this version. So this past week, Microsoft and Epic, the company that's actually making Gears of War, for the first time showed off some of the single-player gameplay, released screenshots and videos. They released the box shots and all that stuff. So I'm kind of as close as I can be to being a fanboy of anything. I do enjoy the video games and Gears of War specifically. So I am.
And that's out when?
November.
Good.
They announced a bunch of other games. I mean, none of them seem particularly interesting to me.
You have a PS3, right?
I do. Although, yeah, I do for now.
Oh, yeah? Why?
This is on a side-related issue. We had the PS3 out in the den. We're using it as a Blu-ray / DVD player, mostly DVDs. And there were two aspects of the PS3 as a DVD player that I didn't appreciate. One was that it would stretch standard definition content out to fit the screen, and I couldn't figure out a way to stop it from doing that. And actually, I could be wrong, but that actually might be have something to do with HDMI 1080p. I mean, there might be no way for it to.
So it's not that you don't think it's the TV. It's something.
No, because I've since gotten a upconvert DVD player that works fine. The other thing I did was, if my son is deaf, so he needs closed captioning or subtitles on movies. So most movies have an option where you can go in through the menu and say, turn on English captions, that kind of thing, start playing the movie. And we have a lot of Simpsons DVDs, and they don't have that option, but the captioning is there. So what you would have to do normally is use the remote control and just enable captioning manually. It doesn't work on the PS3. It was driving me crazy. I would bring them over to my PC, and I'd put it in Windows Media Player, and I'd say, look, see, the captions are there. They really do work. So we bought, I spent $80, and I got a DVD player, and that upconverts to 1080p. And on this DVD player, captions come on, no problem.
Huh.
So, this thing was basically a $600 DVD player that didn't work properly.
Didn't do it right, yeah.
Yeah, and I have to say, there's a bunch of, obviously talked a bunch about some of the stuff I want to get rid of in the near future. I mean, that would be one thing, I think, and the shuttle PC. And
really?
I've got this, I got to finish the book, but once this is out of the way, I think I'm going to include that in the stuff I just get rid of. I don't play games on it anymore, and
So if somebody were to say in the battle between Xbox 360 and Sony PS3, you'd say Xbox 360 hands down.
Well, I would personally, but I would also point to sales figures that suggest otherwise. In fact, I'm of the opinion that by the time this generation of video games comes to a conclusion, that the PS3 will either outsell or basically sell as much as the 360.
Because of the Blu-ray, you think? I
think that's part of it.
Games are catching up.
It's catching up. Definitely, the first 3 months of this year, it outsold the 360. Yeah. It's always outsold the 360 in Europe and Japan.
Right.
And I think they'll be okay. I look at the last generation and I see that Microsoft and Nintendo are basically tied for second place. And I look at this generation and I see long term, I think the same thing will happen, except that it will be Sony and Microsoft tied for second place.
Really interesting.
Yeah.
Huh.
I don't know. The other thing, that came out was, Sony is not reducing the prices of the PS3 this year. There's some rumors that they are actually taking a multi-$100 hit on every machine they sell, even now.
Right.
Microsoft has actually come out and said, not so much that they're not lowering the price, but rather that they won't be releasing a new version of the console at least through next year, which really squashes a lot of rumors and hopes. And I don't know if they actually just mean a new form factor or if they're talking about the chipset, because one of the things we've all been waiting for is that new lower power, lower, heat-consuming, energy-consuming, fan-driving, chipset that's in the current versions. And I need to track that one down, so I didn't have that on today's list yet. I'm not positive what's going on there, but they basically did come out and say we're not releasing a new version of the console.
Did you see that Toshiba is going to come out with a laptop based on the Cell chip that's in the PlayStation 3?
Yeah, and I don't quite understand what the point of that is.
How would that run? Would it run Windows?
No, it would have to run.
It's going to be Linux, yeah.
Unless they could do some sort of emulation thing.
They're also putting it in some TVs now, which makes more sense. I mean, it's a media processor.
Right.
Yeah.
If that thing was a mobile entertainment device, maybe.
Let's talk about something truly engaging.
Okay.
Small business servers.
Moving right along. You can see the natural segue.
Yeah, I was trying to think of, speaking of PS3.
Speaking of cell processing.
I was thinking of getting a small business server.
Yeah, hopefully running a cell processor.
Well,
that won't be happening, Leo, but let me tell you about the next version of small business server.
Yes.
No, I
that's good. Okay, let's see. We'll edit that in. That's good. That's perfect. Perfect.
Nothing like stilted conversation.
Yes.
It's like Bill Gates talking to himself.
Well, let's connect to that thing in the internet with a small business server.
Exactly. Yeah. Actually, that's one of the features.
Is it? It connects to that thing?
It does connect to that thing.
You mean mesh?
No, I don't mean that thing. I mean the other thing.
The other thing?
That will be in the next version.
So I'm a small business now. I have a payroll, a half an employee.
Yep.
Should I be using a small business server?
Did you just say half an employee?
Well, 1.5.
Oh, 1.5.
She's short. No, I only pay them half as much.
I see. Okay. Well, that's fair.
Yeah. Well, no, it's not fair, but it's
fair for you.
It's fair for me.
Yeah.
I suddenly understand this whole capitalist thing. I'm getting it.
It's tough being a small business owner, Leo. No, I had a briefing last week about small business server and also essential business server, which is their mid-market server, medium business server, if you will.
Right.
And that product is new for 2008. Small Business Server has obviously been around for a long time and is being upgraded to 2008. And in the future, near future too, I'll be writing a lot about the different features and so forth. These products and Windows Home Server are now considered part of the same product family. So they're going to share, admin consoles will be very similar between the products and so forth. And there'll be some overlap in functionality and everything. And I have to say, looking at Small Business Server 2008 and being a home server user, I do look at some of the small business stuff and think, oh yes.
That's what you want.
Yeah.
That's
there's some cool stuff going on.
So like what?
I can't talk about that right now.
Thank you very much.
So
it has to do with that thing.
But it's going to connect to that. No, actually, one of the things it is going to do as far as connecting to that thing is connect with with Office Live Small Business, the online service.
Yeah. And
by integrate, I mean, Office Live Small Business is actually a pretty cool service. You can register a domain name, and then they give you tools to get your business going online. They give you email, obviously, Hotmail-based email account and calendar sharing and all that stuff, but also the ability to do things like sell things through eBay and other online services, market your stuff online. Unfortunately, not using Google, but using basically everything but Google, although Google will be coming down the road, I'm told. So they integrate that into Small Business Server, and the sign-up process and the process for doing all that stuff is built into wizards in the tool instead of on the web, And it's just a nice little package they put together. But the one thing that they're changing a few things. The previous version of the server, 2003 and 2003 R2, was criticized by a lot of users because it came with SQL Server 2005 Workgroup Edition, which was a low-cost version. And the thing that's weird about that is if you look at it from a functional standpoint, the 2005 version of Workgroup compared to the 2000 version Standard Edition, almost identical from a functional standpoint. But they got so many complaints that this time around they went back to Standard Edition. So the price has gone up a little bit. But on the other hand, they've also there's the concept of CALs, client access licenses. Yeah. Every user, every machine, however you want to do it, has to connect that Small Business Server. You need to buy a CAL. So
it's a seat license basically.
Yeah. Right. The base server comes with 5. Previously, you could only buy these in packs of 5 or more. So if you had 20
or 1.5
employees,
you're no good.
Yeah. Well, you have 1.5 employees, so you'd have to buy 5. There was no way around that.
Right.
So what they've done this time is they've broken down the cost so that there are different versions of the CALs for the Standard and Premium Edition. Premium Edition is the one that adds the SQL Server stuff. They've changed SQL Server to the Standard Edition. They're allowing you to install SQL Server and a second copy of Windows Server 2008 on a second server, which is basically new for this version. So the Standard Edition CALs are less. The Premium Edition CALs are more, but the base cost of the server itself, the actual software product, is more than it was last time. So the headlines are all, hey, Microsoft is dramatically raising the prices on Small Business Server, but that's not actually true. So basically, this server is designed for small businesses with 75 or fewer employees. Right. Somewhere around 15 to 20 employees, the cost of this version compared to the previous one is exactly the same. And then as you have more employees, it actually gets dramatically less, especially if your mix of standard and premium users is the way it is today.
So they're screwing the little guy.
Yeah,
but if you're a medium guy...
Well, actually, the briefing I had, the guy says something that was unintentionally funny. He said, the way we did things in the past was we had a really low cost servers, but expensive CALs. And our customers told us they didn't like that. So I said, so your customers were asking for expensive servers? And he said, well, no, that's not what I meant. But, Small Business Server Standard Edition previous version was $600 with 5 CALs. Mm-hmm. And now it's just under $1,100 with 5 CALs. But the CAL cost goes down to $77 from $100. You can kind of do the math and where that evens out.
I think there's something wrong with me. I just glaze over when we talk enterprise computing.
Well, I appreciate you actually, admitting to that.
There's something wrong with me. I'm missing that gene.
Yeah.
It's like, okay.
All right, let's talk about Gears of War again.
I'm much more interested.
Let me tell you what I like about
I'll tell you what. I want to have time to get to your picks because we missed them last week. So let's get to the Audible ad, and then we're going to get to Paul's picks. And we're also going to get to his tip. But I got to mention audible.com. Audible.com/Windows is a place to go to get your audio books. Good stuff. 45,000 plus titles. I think I could safely say they are now the largest place, the place to go to get audio books. And I tell you, I love them. I know Paul does too. We listen to them all the time. If you travel, if you commute, if you spend any time anywhere where you can't hold a book in front of your eyes, I love to read. And this is a great way to get all the reading done you could ever want. More, really. I mean, I feel like there's too many books, too little time. Have we ever talked about Ken Follett? You must be a Ken Follett fan.
Actually, we haven't, and I'm trying to think.
They've just released 6 of his best books on Audible, and I'm so happy about it.
Like Eye of the Needle.
Eye of the Needle. What a great story that is.
Yeah, it's been a long time since I've read anything by Ken Follett. But yeah.
The Eye of the Needle is a World War II story, and but it's just great. I mean, I know we love these kind of thrillers, and his stuff is I think he's very literate. I think it's some of the best written stuff. The Needle is a
classic.
Yeah,
great movie too, by the way.
Who was in the movie?
I want to say it was I can picture him, but I can't think of his name.
I don't remember the movie.
It was the guy who was in the 78 version of Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
The tall guy.
His son is also an actor. I should just look it up.
Anyway, it doesn't matter.
If only I had something like the internet.
That thing in the sky could help you.
I know.
Listen to
that thing up there.
That thing up there in the sky. Eye of the Needle. But there's 6 new.
Okay, it's Donald Sutherland.
That's it. Love him.
Sorry.
I haven't seen the movie. I have to get the movie.
Oh, it's classic.
But if you haven't read the book, read the book first. Unabridged. It's free if you join Audible right now using this special page, audible.com/Windows. We love you, Audible. And anybody who hasn't yet tried an Audible book, this would be a great one. Eye of the Needle by Ken Follett. We thank Audible for their support of Windows Weekly. I do want you, my friend, to give us a tip before we run out of time.
Me?
Yes,
Oh,
you.
me, yes.
Yes,
it would be me.
You would be the one. Mr. Tip. What is your tip?
A reading from the Book of Windows Vista.
I just finished it.
Chapter 2.
Yes. The good book, we call it.
Exactly. I have to be bathed in light while I'm writing it.
I'll give you audio light.
Right. No, this is about delaying product activation. So if you've bought a copy of Windows Vista to install it on your own PC, this is not necessarily something you would ever do on a PC that you bought in the store with Vista on it, because that would already be pre-activated. But if you buy a copy of Vista, you can actually delay product activation beyond the 30 days. In fact, you can delay it up to 120 days if you're really vigilant. And this is interesting for a number of reasons. I've actually been doing it lately on my main PC only because I'm not sure if I want to leave it in this state. I'm currently doing this multi-boot thing, and I don't really know if this is something I want to be doing long term. But during the process of the book where I have to go back and forth between different versions, it's something that's really handy. And I would say that one of the tips we had in the past was about how you can dual or multi-boot between different versions of Windows Vista on the same PC using that same DVD that you have, the original installation DVD, and you can use that DVD to install any version of Vista. You could install Starter Edition, Home Basic, Home Premium, Business, or Ultimate. I believe.
And try it.
Versions.
And just try it.
And if you have one of the lower end versions and you're not sure if you want to go Ultimate, you could try it for 30 days. But using this tip, you could actually extend that out to 120 days at maximum. You have to be very careful to do that. The process is called rearming.
Oh, wow.
Which sounds dramatic, but it really isn't. And all you need to do is access a script that's called the Software Licensing Manager. It's actually a VB script. And there's a parameter that you enter when you run it called it's -rearm, which resets the 30-day activation grace period. So if you're on day 29, you can run this script, and it will go from 1 day remaining to 30 days. So you can do this. If you do it on that exact day, you can do it 3 times. So you get the initial 30 days plus 3 more 30-day slices, 120 days total, if you want to. I mean, over 120 days if you weren't particularly careful, certainly, which is almost a third of a year.
That's a long time. Plenty of time to try it out.
Yeah. So the way you do this is, and I'm reading my instructions here, so I have to, because I don't want to run this here, but you have to open a command line window. So you start menu search CMD and hit enter, and that gives you the command processor. And then you type in slmgr.vbs.
Wow.
And VBS is the three-letter extension for a VB script, script, space, dash, rearm.
Cool.
Now, I'm not going to enter this on mine because, like I said,
you don't want to rearm it.
I'm partway. I don't want to rearm it now. But if your system is unactivated, right, so you occasionally get those little pop-ups where it says, hey, would you like to activate Windows now? And you kind of dismiss it. And it will tell you how many days you have left.
Cool.
If you're in that state and you run this, a little window will appear. It says, command completed successfully. Restart the system for changes to take effect. And when you do, you'll see that your grace period has been reset to 30 days.
Very cool.
Yeah, pretty slick. So,
is that legal?
One thing I did last week.
That's legal, right?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, sure.
All right.
Absolutely.
I got a couple more minutes before we have to run.
Yes.
Can you?
Well, I just wanted to add. So last week we didn't have the time for the tip or the software, so I put it in the blog.
Thank you.
I think I'm going to do that every single week going forward.
Oh yeah.
I'll do a.
Please do.
And I'll link to it from my page for the podcast. So I actually have an excerpt from the book that I'll paste out to the blog when this thing goes live. So
great.
You can see the actual command line and so forth.
Do you want to mention a software pick?
Yeah, so this one's actually from a few weeks ago. I think I had brought this one out when we talked to Mary Jo Foley, and we didn't have time that week either. So Yahoo has released a new beta version of Messenger for Vista. And if you're a Windows Vista user, this thing's actually really impressive. And because it uses all those awesome arrow effects, and it's far more attractive than Microsoft's own instant messenger application.
Maybe that's why Microsoft wanted to buy them.
Could be. And by the way, there's some news this week that may be happening again, but I guess
they may be secretly in talks right now.
Yeah,
we just don't know.
Interesting. Well, no, there's the billionaire investor ICANN.
Carl ICANN, yeah, he wants to replace the board with a new slate of board members, including Mark Cuban of all people, the guy who sold Broadcast.com to Yahoo for $5 billion.
Yikes.
But at least I guess Mark is in Carl's pocket, and the whole idea would be, okay, guys, come and get us. But Microsoft has walked away. There is no offer on the table.
That's the thing, and that's the wild card. There's nothing.
There may not be anything there.
Right. Yeah, he may actually successfully replace the board, and then Microsoft will say, actually, we were pretty serious about not wanting Yahoo anymore.
We really didn't want you. But they could thank Microsoft for the stock price is better than it was when this whole thing started. That's
for sure. And it hasn't gone down to its previous level. So actually they gained $5 of shares.
There you go. They show them some value. So Yahoo Messenger looks better in Vista than ever before.
Yeah, messenger.yahoo.com/windowsvista.php, unfortunately.
Sorry.
Yeah, why it has to be like that, we don't know.
That's something Microsoft would have fixed right away. Get rid of that PHP stuff.
Well, there would have been no PHP, but Microsoft has their own long.
They would have been ASP, but that's, I'm not getting it. Hey, I want to mention GoToMeeting, folks, real quickly, because I know you know about GoToMeeting, because I've been talking about it for 4 years now on the radio show. It's the best way to turn a boring old conference call into a visual meeting, a way that you can show people your PowerPoint, you can collaborate on documents, you can share spreadsheets, and because it's got the best underlying technology of all, written by Citrix. This is the same stuff Microsoft uses themselves. It's fast, it's efficient, it's the best way. And with one low flat monthly rate, it is the most affordable. You can look at those other guys. Go ahead, try them. This is much more affordable. In fact, I'll tell you what, I'll give it to you free for 30 days. Go to gotomeeting.com/windows. I think that's it. Yeah, gotomeeting.com/windows. No, I'm sorry, it's Windows Weekly. Gotomeeting.com/windows weekly. Sign up. You get 30 days free. You could try it. You could show your boss, your clients. Do some test meetings. You can have multiple people all over the world in multiple locations. Go to meeting.com/Windows Weekly. We do thank them so much for their support of Windows Weekly. And Paul, once again, we've been cut short by the clock, and that's because I've got to go this time. But I'll tell you what, next time, let's do a 4-hour show.
Wow. Okay.
Just everything we didn't get to.
I'll bring my sleeping bag.
I'm sorry about the technical issues. We will get Skype back next week.
I do blame you for those personally.
It's all my fault. It always has been. Paul Thurrott is online at the super site for Windows, winsupersite.com. You'll see his blog there. And don't forget, now that he's finished it, look for soon in the stores Windows Vista Secrets.
Oh, you must know how publishing works because it's not going to be anytime soon. In fact, I'm pretty sure Windows 7 will be out.
They got to warm up the presses. Paul, thanks a lot. I appreciate it. We'll talk to you soon.
Sounds good.
And then thanks for joining us on Windows Weekly.